Hi guys, welcome to the channel. It's my birthday today, so thanks for all the birthday wishes. And I've got a bit of spare time, so I thought I'd talk about some helicopters. We all know the Bell and the Airwolf and the UH-1 and the BO-105 from Flywing. But today we're going to talk about the 3D printed BO-105 homage, let's call it, because in all honesty it's not an exact replica. So in this video we're going to actually build a complete another one. This particular one, I've sold the body, and also the files that you will download are the latest version. I've made some modifications to this design by lightening it. All my models are designed to be as light as possible. This one you can see is a lot bigger, so it obviously will be a little bit heavier. I've printed all the parts already, just waiting on one small part, and we're going to build it together. So if you want to see how this one is built, the techniques that I'm going to use here are also applicable for all the other models, in fact. So they're all designed in the same vein, basically. But yeah, if you want to skip to the flying part, it'll be at the end. But for now, let's get building. For the audio of the build, I'm just switching to the camera as the camera's audio, so excuse it if it doesn't sound as beautiful as it usually does. So here are some of the tools you'll need: some masking tape, spatula, and a bit of spot putty for later to fill in any gaps. We'll put that aside for now. You'll need a craft knife, some super glue, obviously, some activator. Let's just put that away for now. I would recommend, in fact, you need to print yourself a 10 by 10 2-layer height strip, because we use that to cut little things, to use them as strengtheners for inside the chassis, and wherever that you're going to glue you might need some of these little blocks to strengthen that, so that you will need to print. I didn't include this in the files, it's easy to make. 0.4 nozzle, we're going to print this, I'll put all the specs up. A 0.25 layer height and a 0.6 millimeter line width, and that'll give you a 1.2 millimeter body, and it's still smooth enough because you're going to sand this to paint it anyway, but it's perfectly good, and it also makes a nice strong part. There's a few options to do this piece. You can either print this piece here on its own, which is over here on the plate, and then the window separate. If you're lucky enough to have access to a resin printer, you'll probably get nice crystal clear glass out of there. All these files are separate and included. I've included this part as a whole so that you could drop your windows in. I've included this part as a whole if you wanted to just paint the windows like I did in my last one. And with that in mind, you would print it like this with some support. Make sure there's enough gap between your support and your part, and I used a 0.5 millimeter gap on top, and then this thing just popped off as a whole. There you can see it, and left me with this piece, which will then later go on here. With this version I will just mask up the windows, paint them black, and carry on. Of course, if you print this, you can print the windows separate. So here they are separate, and you'll... Right, the very first thing we're going to do, we are going to tape up the top piece. This bottom piece is a separate piece here, and there's a reason I've done that. and I'll get to that now. So we're first going to tape up this top hood to the back piece here, and we will line it up nicely. We will start here, so this is exactly in line. Put some tape there, work your way around up to a certain point so that that is in place. Then we'll introduce this piece. Remember this is a separate piece here. We'll introduce, let's call this the battery bay, into here. And you want to make sure that there's no overlap here, because look, this is plastic, it will twist and warp it slightly. So get this as close to the next piece as you can, and make sure to tape it up so that when you fit the hood eventually, it's square. On the orange one that I did, I made a slight mistake. I did all of this, then I removed this, expecting this to stay in place, and I glued that in place. However, what happened was that it twisted slightly, and the hood didn't fit perfectly. Look, it still fits, but it's not as perfect as this is going to be. So with that in mind, once you've taped this up, then you can tape this piece on. And remember, this is a separate little piece here. And the reason actually why I have this separate, you can print this in one go. However, you will not be able to drill and line up your holes for the pins. This part, because if this is all sealed in one piece, then there's no way to get there. So that's why this is separate. Also, if you print this and it fails, then you haven't wasted the print time on this piece. So it's much nicer actually to print the parts separately, and then if one part fails, it's just a small piece, it's not the whole thing. So anyway, so now I've lined this up as best as I could, and there's actually no strain here whatsoever. It's all just fits beautifully. Before you in fact do any of this, on all your mating parts, let's go with this one for now. Okay, on all the mating parts you'll need to take a Dremel and just bevel this slightly on both sides. So when you fit it together, the glue has a bead to go and spread into. If you just had this flat and flat, you'd only be relying on this tiny surface to hold all of this together. But if you have a bevel inside there, and then the glue can sit inside, as well as the balance of you'll have a much stronger join. But on these parts, we are going to introduce some little tabs that we will put here. Okay, and then when we line it up, it has to fit inside the tabs. There's no way that you can glue it like that by mistake, or like that, because it has to fit inside the tabs, and then the whole thing just pops together. I'll show you now. But anyway, so that was just a quick by the way. Once you've glued this in, you can also, please do add a few tabs in some places just to give it some strength. But another quick tip, so because this piece is now ready to glue, and I'm going to glue this on camera, is to put your hand down here. And in fact, what I would do on a build surface is just lay a couple of bits of tape down here. So should the glue seep through, you haven't glued it to the table, and you can just lift the tape off. You know, so if you're pressing here like this, and you've got glue and the glue seeps, well, there's tape there anyway, so I suppose that doesn't matter. So with that in mind, I've checked this, it's 100%. I'm going to start gluing it together. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue here, just a little drop here, and a little drop there, just to secure it, and then I will line those in. As I'm doing that, I'm going to press this flat here. Okay, because when you take the tape off, You don't want a bulger, you want this to be flat as possible, to give you the least amount of work later to try and sort that out. Start here. Of course you won't be able to see this now. So when I put my drop there, I also just spread it slightly, so we don't want it to stick. There's a tiny bit of glue in there. So I'm hoping, oh yes, you can actually see that. Tiny bit of glue there, and I'm pressing very hard here to make this flat. I'm now going to go here. Of course my head is going to be in the way, but just take it from me that I'm doing exactly the same thing. Maybe this side. Okay, there we go. Excuse my head. Please excuse my head in the way, I know it's in the way. Okay, a tiny drop over there. I'm going to do another one right here, and I'm just pressing the two parts to make them as flush as possible, and putting the tiniest drop of glue there, and just spreading it flat. Make sure not to glue your fingers onto the job. Right, with that in mind, just going to feel here. So I'm going to just carry on. I'm going to cut myself a few strips of this. Right. Right, so now we can remove this, I would imagine. This should be all square and beautiful. Of course we're going to put pins along here, so that when we offer it up it just slides into place, but you can see it's nice and square. A little tab here. Okay, I've cleaned it up. I've drilled some holes, 1, 2, 3 there, 2 there, 2 there, and that's just enough for a toothpick to go through, just like that. Then I have I've just put some tape here, because I now need to tape this back on here, and make sure you tape it properly, because this is the way it's going to fit. Okay, I've drilled all my holes. I'll make sure that my skewer fits nicely. And don't forget, if your hole is a little bit too big or you need to adjust it slightly, once the pins are on, you can always put a tiny drop of super glue there and that'll shift it in a direction. So let's, we're going to glue these onto here. Let's start with the first one. Also, when you glue it, make sure you don't glue it like that. And try and get it 90 degrees to this. So don't glue it in like that. Make it 90 degrees. Okay, cut yourself 5 larger strips and 2 smaller strips from your plate, because we're going to glue the tail together now. But I want to just make sure that this is flat here. Okay, I've got my little tabs on. I'm just test fitting it. And I'm looking for a nice join over here. So, looks good. You only get one chance at this, so I'm not going to put glue here because it's got activate on it. I'm going to put glue here. Lots of it. Line it up and press it on the table and hope for the best. There we go. Okay, I've taped the tail on. It does fit very nicely. I don't know if you can see it, it's lifting there slightly, but when you press it on the table, you'll get that fairly flush. Just checking that everything is in line. Nothing untoward. bevel all the edges, make sure it fits nicely. Glue that into place. Okay. Then I would once again bevel that, test fit it, make sure it fits nicely. I'll show you just now, and then you'll drill a hole each side and a hole each side, and that's for if you ever want to change the tail, maybe for some reason, I don't know. I mean, I've changed mine a few times for some other reason. I can pop it out, but by all means, once you've got the problem also is to get the wire through there. You're not going to be able to grab that wire if you glue this in place like that, but it can be done. Okay, I'll see you when I have all the internal plates ready to go. I've printed out all these parts, and my printer, I have a double-sided print plate, so I can get a nice sort of a carbon look on these parts. Not that it's important, I mean, no one sees this, so it doesn't really matter. But anyway, okay, so you're going to dry fit this top brace first. So go in there with your file, make sure this fits. It can be fairly tight as long as you can move it, because once you've glued it in there, that's when you're going to fit this. Because what's going to happen is this is the rear brace, you're going to fit it into the fuselage, going to glue it in, and then we're going to introduce the motor plate into it, and then we're going to introduce the power module on. That's why I haven't drilled any of these holes, because each one is going to be slightly different, you know. But the important part is this piece. We're going to mount this with the two little holes onto the top of the power module, and we'll be able to slide this in and out to get the distance that we need. So the first thing we're going to do, okay, so you've got a rear, a middle, and a front, and a battery tray holder. So we'll do that last. Now, this thing is designed with this to be in a particular place, but I found I can never get it exactly there. So because we have quite a large plate, if you don't get it exactly where you need to, it's fine, because you can move the electronics around here. So you get it as deep in as you can. Okay. I'll let you know what my measurement is once I've glued it in. It's a little bit tricky because this thing wants to just jump around all over the place. So I'm going to attempt to press it in and keep it square as possible. I'll get back to you when I've done that. Okay, I've got it in place. I've just dropped a small drop of glue just over there, just to hold it in place to a degree. And now I'm going to attempt, look, this isn't critical. It's nice to get it straight, but it's not critical. So let me just have a look, see what I'm going to do. I might need to give this just a bit more here. So I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on this plate here. And then I'll measure this and let you know what I came up with. But I do want it square, and I'm looking at the square on here. Alright, okay. So I landed up at 75. Let's drop some glue there. We're not gluing the plate in, eh? We're just using it to make sure that this is flat, square. Also, position of this not critical. Get it in until it's nice and snug. And parallel as you can, and here I'm going to be at 24 millimeters. Now don't forget, we're not gluing this plating yet. Okay. You can go ahead and glue the battery bay together, because that goes here, so that we can just do. Fit in here. That. Everything fits lovely. When we glue this motor plate in, I need to strip the other one out, and then I need to show you how to mount this, because we need to drill 2 holes, and we need to attach these guys like at the end here to hold this in place. Okay, when you dry fit this, we can't glue it yet. When you dry fit this, just make sure you can move it. It doesn't need to be loose; it can be a tight fit. As long as you can maneuver it around, because we don't know exactly where this power module is going to land up. Right, so I've printed the landing gear, and I've just dry fitted it with 2 screws. You'll notice that the front and the rear landing gear are slightly different, and also the holes are different, so they can only fit in one place. I've measured here 40 mil, so thereabouts. You need to now screw this plate onto here. Make sure it's flush at the back. You might need to file out a couple of parts so that this sits nicely. Find yourself 2 appropriate screws, and that's why we didn't glue this in before. So I'm going to just offer that up, and offer that up, $70, so we're looking for 35. Back a little bit. Tape underneath here now. Because we're not drilling these holes yet, we're going to drill these just now. We're just actually determining the depth at the moment. So right, now that you have it aligned in the center, you want to align this as well. to mark this hole now. Going to mark that hole. Okay, I've marked my holes. I've drilled the holes. You can now go ahead and glue these in here. Plate. Like that. And then I'm going to put them there. Just like that. And I know that my plate needs to be flush here, so I'm going to just maneuver that in. Okay, we can now glue our plating because we've measured everything, and I know that my plate needs to be flush here, like that, and then everything should fit. I'm now ready to glue in those two parts, and then that will stay exactly where it is. Best way is to drop some glue there. Like that. Just letting it run around the corner a little bit. Okay. Let's do this side. This, I'm sure I did. So you just need to bevel this, glue this in here, okay, and then that'll just pop in. I haven't quite finished this yet, but at some point this will just pop in nicely. So I just need to bevel this a little bit more. Okay, so I've measured this. I just wanted to show you this optional battery mount system here. Of course, everyone's build will be slightly different. So in your case, you might have the battery here with, let's say, a piece of Velcro. There's a slot here for that. So I found that the correct CG with either of these batteries is right here. If I try this, it's 2 nose heavy, but that's just my version, eh? So yours might be different because you might have a different tail motor. So this battery just clips in there like that. It's not going to go anywhere. Solid. And then the CG is correct. Of course, you'd need the hood on for that, like that. And you can see there it balances. Yep. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pins here. Make the holes a fraction bigger than the pins. And then what I did is I dropped a drop of super glue on 2 of these. Okay, but not against the plastic. So you hold it like this, put some super glue here. I've got a small piece there, just like that. It doesn't go all the way. Same with this side, like that. And then when you present the hood, if you get it perfectly lined up, it should just plop into place. So there we go, it's all lined up, but it hasn't popped in yet because remember the super glue is going to, it's a bit bigger, or it's the same diameter as the hole, and then the pins have to stretch slightly. So in this case, that's it, just pops on, won't go anywhere. This is the original tail that I made. You can see it's a bit longer than the one I've got on here. So this will be available as well in the files, or you can have the slightly shorter one. I don't know why I chose the shorter one, but there it is. It's exactly the same. The mounting is identical. So that's up to you. You can decide what you want to do. Lovely stuff. Thanks for following along. If you feel so inclined, you may buy me a coffee. The link is down below. And I think it's a great model. Flies great. Well, I have flown it obviously already. So I think let's cut to the flying video. And please share your builds on the groups, or send me a link in this video. I'm very happy to have a look. I'm just going to need to put some clear coat on this one. As you can see, this one is a lot shinier. So I was just letting the paint cure nicely. So I'm going to Scotch Brite it down, give it a clear coat, maybe some stickers, Sheriff, Monster, who knows. And guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Okay, so you've sanded, glued, measured, glued, painted, and now you want to see what this all was worth. Lovely. Guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you back in the studio. Lovely.